So we've done it. That's the 2021 school year done and dusted. After the term that I've had, I have to say I'm so glad that this year is over. So today is another term wrap-up post. You guys really seem to enjoy these, and I actually really love doing them. It's a really nice way to pull everything out and have a look at what we did or didn't accomplish throughout the term, reflect a little, and then be able to look forward into the future as to what we may tackle down the road. So this is the last one of the year. There obviously have been 3 others. I've done one at the end of each term or at the end of each quarter, and I will link them all down below if you wanted to take a look at those as well. Of course, some things stay the same and then other things are completely different from term to term. If you saw my recent day in the life video, then you'll know already that this hasn't been a great term for me, and you know, in reality it probably hasn't been a great year for many of us. So that does reflect in what I've got to show you today, because it was a really light term. We just needed that. I needed that. But I've come to realise, like I say this so many times in all my videos, after 15 years of homeschooling, one term or one quarter of light homeschooling is not going to harm anyone's educational outcomes. Truly, when you're in those moments where life is just piling things on top of you and you're kind of in that sink or swim period of life, it's really okay to let those big grand plans that you may have had around schooling go. It's genuinely okay. No one's going to suffer if you do that. So anyway, let's get into this end of term wrap up. And we will start, as we always do, with our morning documentaries. So this term we watched The Mind Explained on Netflix. We've actually watched 2 seasons of this. Each episode of this particular documentary series is only around about 20 minutes, and they just focus on all different topics. Really enjoyed this one. I like that it's 20 minutes of short and sharp information, but it covers the gamut of, I'm trying to remember everything, but basically anything to do with the mind. So we covered meditation, becoming a teenager, personality, all of those types of things, anything to do with the mind. And we really enjoyed that one. Then we moved on to Black Holes, The Edge of All We Know. We didn't finish this one. It's a great documentary. It's very, very, very science heavy. And we just found it probably a little bit too much for us and where we wanted to take our documentary viewing. We didn't make it right to the end of that one, I'm afraid. And the other documentary that we put on was Unnatural Selection. This was fascinating, and it's definitely in one of our most enjoyed documentaries of the year. So Unnatural Selection is about gene therapy. So it's a really good scientific look at gene therapy and the moralistic side of playing God with human beings and other creatures on the planet. So we really enjoyed that and the conversations that took place as part of that documentary. In terms of our novel study this term, we read Tom Sawyer using Lightning Literature grade 7? Yes, 7th grade Lightning Literature with Tom Sawyer. This book, I wanted the kids to read a classic this year, so this is what we chose. Tom Sawyer. I already had Lightning Literature on the shelf, so it kind of made sense to do that. We didn't love the book, but we didn't despise the book. And in fact, I probably would like to sit one day and spend a little bit of time unpacking this book. But today is not the time or place to do that. So that was Tom Sawyer, and we used the grade 7 Lightning Literature by Hewitt Homeschooling. Of course, science, we continued going along with our physical science. I have to be honest, from when our co-op stopped at the beginning of the term, we didn't get too much more done. We read a couple of extra chapters, but we pretty much wrapped most of our science up by then. We did, however, keep going with these books. My first book of quantum physics and my first book of relativity, and really enjoyed those. These are great books if you've got kids who are interested in this type of science in any way, shape or form. They're a really great introductory level. and a great way to get conversations flowing and kids asking questions about that. Of course, we're still using History Quest, and we're nearly halfway. We didn't quite get as far in this as I would have liked, but I do really love our little Ishtar gates, which is part of the Babylon chapter that we looked at in history. So that was a great hands-on activity that we did there as part of History Quest History. That one is definitely a staple, and I'm ordering the next one for when we get halfway through next year to continue going on with history. I really, really like this program. Mathematics is still going well. I say this every term. The moment I decided to employ a tutor was the best moment of my mathematical career as a home educating mum. So maths is basically handled all by her. You may remember back in the beginning of the year, I shared that we were entering, my son was doing grade 7 and this was going to be the first year that he was using an Australian aligned curriculum based mathematics program. Prior to that, we had always used mostly American math homeschooling programs, which are fine, but they're not aligned to the Australian curriculum. So we changed over to MathQuest, and we started using that at the beginning of the year. I haven't got it with me because I gave it to my tutor so that she can have it on hand. But if you check my other videos, you'll see that it's all in there. I've given a look inside as well on another video. That's all going well. The beginning of the year, he took a little while to get into that style of textbook math learning, but he's completed the year completely fine. And he will move on to grade 8 in the MathQuest book next year. My daughter, of course, continued with her pre-vote math program. This is okay. It's not amazing. Some of the topics don't always grab her and aren't always that engaging, but it does give her a nice level of a good amount of well-rounded mathematics that she will use going forward in her life. So I believe we will continue with this, although I know that our math tutor is also looking at some other resources that she may pull in for her for next year. In terms of geography, again, geography was something we started with the co-op, and what we had originally chosen didn't quite work out all that well. Then we looked at moving into creating our own more cultural-based, visiting countries around the world geography program. And of course then co-op ceased back in the beginning of this term, and so we didn't get a lot more done, but I did continue using the initial booklet that I put together for the kids to focus more on Iceland. Iceland was the first country that we decided to look at, and I'm just working our way through the travel book, and we decided to start with Europe. Love this book. It's a great handy book to have. And then I put together a journal all about Iceland. So it's a semi-guided journal, a little bit of information on the front page of basics. We looked at the puffin and we did a paper piecing puffin craft. We did a little bit on the geysers and obviously all the icebergs, etc. that are there in Iceland. As you can see, we haven't completed it. But going a little bit further, we did an iceberg tissue paper craft. Didn't quite turn out exactly as we had hoped, but it was fun to do anyway. We've still got a little bit more to do in this, but I'm just going to keep it for next year, and that will be our completed journal on Iceland. And then hopefully next year we will just continue working our way around and choosing countries as we see fit. For art this term, we decided that we would try a new to us, relatively local art studio. So the kids went along there every Thursday afternoon for 2 hours at a time. And the first piece they completed was this doorway vine painting. I think they look great. I love them. They did such a good job with those. Really like those. And I have to be honest, after that one, my youngest, my boy, said, I'm done with art. I've had enough. I've done my art piece. It's not my thing. I really don't love it. So he stopped going. And my daughter continued, and she went along to improve her pencil skills and created this little froggy piece, which I absolutely adore. I just want to find a frame to put this one in because he's so cute. She'd been saying for quite some time that she wanted to do a frog. And so we've come away at the end of the year with her accomplishing that, which is nice to see. We're still working our way through our morning basket books. We're so slow with these, and I think I've showed these every single term and we're not finished any of them, but that's okay. So we're still going through looking after your mental health. I really like this. It's easy, simple book, covers all manner of topics for teens. What If? The scientific question and answer book that we really enjoy, but again, we just don't get the time very often to look inside that one. And Oswald Money for Beginners. This is really good. It's, in some ways it's a little bit young, but in other ways we are covering things in this book that we've actually never really talked about. So I love that because it's a really methodical look at everything to do with money. And I love that about that book. Oh, I forgot also, as part of art, we did a little study on Van Gogh using this book by What the Artist Saw, Vincent van Gogh. And again, I put together just a really simple journal. We didn't finish it, but we did make a start on a Van Gogh unit. And I hope that we'll continue that next year. The reason I chose Van Gogh is that the Van Gogh Alive interactive exhibition was coming to our nearest city. So we went along to Van Gogh Alive as a family, and that was lots of fun. It's different. I wasn't sure what to expect, and I'd heard really mixed reviews on it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I am thankful that I did take the time to study Van Gogh before going, because it gave us information that we could discuss whilst we were in there viewing the art pieces. That was really helpful, I think. And then of course, along with the Van Gogh unit, we watched bucket loads of just little mini YouTube clips. So from there, we have all of our extras. So my son continued with cadets and he really loved his first year of emergency service cadets. And just this weekend gone, they organised a disaster camp. So he had one bag, just one of those reusable shopping bags, that he was allowed to take with him for the entire weekend. And in that bag, he had to have something to sleep on, toiletries, a change of clothes, and all of his food. And the only thing they had access to in terms of food preparation was an urn of boiling water. So they had to really think about what they were going to pack in their kit to take with them on this disaster camp. So they went off, had a full weekend of lots of different disaster style activities. We had a massive storm come through, so that added to the excitement for them with a real life storm coming through anyway. So that was great. He's a Love Cadets. It's one of the best programs we've ever found around. We did some more go-karting this term. The kids absolutely love go-karting. It will be something that they would do as an ongoing thing if dollars allow, but gosh, it's an expensive activity. So it's just a little bit of extra fun for us that we do whenever we can. We also took a day out with a large group of other homeschoolers and went along to our local treetops challenge area, you know, where the kids climb through all the ropes and zip lines and challenge themselves to scramble across a high treetop thing. So that's a lot of fun. We took an excursion to a local place called Tank Ride, which this man has this massive amount of military vehicles, memorabilia. His heart and soul has gone into this place, and his knowledge around that was quite incredible. And for people who have kids like me who aren't really into that type of history, they're not really enamored by military history or into the wars or any of those types of things, doing this as a hands-on excursion was so good for them, because there were so many questions asked, there was so much to learn and so much to find out. So I'm really thankful that we got to do that. And everyone, including us mummies, got a fun ride in his Sherp vehicle, I think it's called. So that was a lot of fun. My daughter this term tried a different Eisteddfod. So she went a little bit further afield with her drama buddies and did an Eisteddfod out of the way. Again, another great experience in a different area on a different stage, and came away with another swag of medals. Halloween fell in this term. Of course, that's always a fun time of the year. The kids like to dress up and hang out with their friends. It's still not massive here in Australia, and the boys did struggle to find homes that were participating in Halloween. So it is what it is here in Australia. You'll get little pockets where lots of people do it, and then areas where no one at all participates. But they still enjoy dressing up, hanging out and being silly together. We had a goanna in our house. My son came out to me one day and said, "Mom, there's a lizard at the end of the hallway." And I'm thinking he's meaning one of those little teeny weeny lizards that, you know, are around everywhere here. And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you just pick it up and put it outside?" And I went down and had a look, and it was a goanna. Well, at the time I didn't realise it was a goanna. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's a lizard." You know, it wasn't big, it was only a baby one, but still, it was a decent sized lizard. And when my husband said, "That's a goanna," we've lived here for nearly 16 years and we've never seen a goanna anywhere. Clearly they're here because we had a baby one inside our house. So that was a bit of a real life nature study fun for us with that goanna coming into the house. Oh, we managed to get family photos this past term as well. For a really brief period of time, I had 3 teenagers. So my youngest turned 13, my middle child was 17, and my eldest was 19. So in that little brief pocket of time, I desperately wanted us to get family photos. So we had those done, still waiting for them to come back. If they're back to us before I publish this video, I'll put a picture up on the screen. Other than that, I'll just put up one of my happy snaps that I took. But we're still waiting to receive those, so I can't wait to have that little snapshot of all my children being teenagers. My daughter attended our regional homeschooling formal. So thankful to the homeschooling parents that go out of their way to create these things. Because here, a homeschooling formal isn't something you hear of every day of the week. It's not something that's common. It does take a lot of time, effort and work. So I'm really thankful that we do have a mum here in our capital city that puts in the effort to create these every single year. And the other big bit of excitement I had this term, which was a massive weight off my shoulders, I have to say my whole mood lifted when this one came through, was that my eldest got his university offer sent to him in the middle of the term. In fact, it was right in the middle of exam week for our grade 12 students. So that was amazing. And if you haven't seen the video of where I share our university story and the pathway that we took to get there, go check that out now. I'll also leave that linked in the description box down below. So what didn't we get to this term that we probably should have, or that I had hoped to get to? If any of you remember, I think I shared this in term 1. I bought a unit on copyright and plagiarism. The entire year has gone on and we haven't even looked at this unit. Anyway, I'll put that in the pile for next year, shall I? That's life. Look, honestly, these things happen. We can't possibly get to everything, and I am okay about that. Completely and utterly okay. So I will add it to the top of the pile and do my best to get to that in first term of 2022. And that's term 4. Done and dusted. If you have any questions about anything I've shared, as always, please just leave them down in the description box below. I'm always happy to help out wherever I can. If you're still here and you love resources and you love chatting about resources, I'm also going to put a link to my Facebook group, and I'll pop something on the screen as well for you. Jump on over and join our resource Facebook group where we share and chat about all things educational resources. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, especially if you've made it all the way to the end, and I will see you all again soon. Bye for now.